He was a poppet, feeding fine, he was happy, smiley, content, which was a welcome change to my nephew Liam, who suffered with colic for most of his first year. It was when Ben was 4 months old that I started to notice that something wasn't quite right. He wasn't developing, I didn't think, like the other babies. He wasn't interested in his toys, rolling over. He didn't seem to be interacting with us. I took him to the baby clinic every week and I mentioned this to the health visitor, and she said not to worry and not to compare him with other children. But she did say that if he was still the same when he was 9 months old, that she would refer him to a paediatrician for further assessment. They kept telling me to stop being overcautious and wrapping him up in cotton wool. In December 2007, when Ben was 9 months old, we decided to take a short holiday for just a 5-day break in Mallorca. But when we was coming back on the plane, Ben was vomiting repeatedly. And by the time the plane landed, he was really quite poorly. So we took him straight to A&E and they immediately transferred him to the assessment unit. They said that he was dehydrated and they put him straight onto intravenous fluids. I could tell that they were worried about him, but the doctor, he was absolutely brilliant. And we were so exhausted, we were just so relieved that he was in safe hands. At midnight, when Ben was stable, the doctor, he was a consultant, Dr. Lees, he asked us if we had any other concerns about anything else. Well, I told him that I was really scared of telling him because everybody else was telling me that I was being paranoid. But I told him that I felt that Ben was behind. And he did say to me then that Ben was showing signs of developmental delay and that he wanted to assess him further. So if we were in an agreement, he would arrange an appointment for January. At the appointment in January with Dr. Lees, Ben was happy and he was flapping his hands, and Dr. Lees kept saying what a happy chappy he was. In retrospect, I realised then that he knew that something was wrong with Ben, but he just needed more clarity. So he referred Ben onto genetics at Barnsley. Initially, the genetics nurse came to see us at home and she went through the history. She explained all what would happen at the appointment. She completed a variety of forms with us about family history. We then saw Dr. Sunthanka in the April, which was exactly 4 months after we'd attended A&E. At this appointment, Ben had bloods taken for an array of tests. He also had photographs taken, and they said that they wanted to present him at the monthly genetics meeting. They told us that they would get back in touch with us as soon as they'd received the results back, but there was no indication of timescales given. So I continued to take Ben to his appointments for physiotherapy, occupational therapy and speech and language services. It was exactly 4 months later, on the 10th of September, that I received a letter which said that the bloods had come back normal. But 2 days later, on the 13th of September, I had a phone call then from the genetics nurse saying that they needed to see us urgently because now they knew what was wrong with Ben. So an appointment was made for 2 days later, on the 15th of September at 1 p.m. Ben was exactly 18 months old. I asked my mother-in-law to come with me and Ben to the appointment because Steve, he couldn't get time off work. The geneticist started the appointment by asking me, have you heard of Angelman syndrome? Well, I hadn't, so I said no. He then said to me, have you got a computer at home? Well, I said, yes. He then said, well, go home and look it up and we'll see you in 6 weeks. Well, I just started crying. And he said to me, why are you crying? I managed to ask him when he was going to die. And he just said to me, he said, it's not life limiting, and that was it. I don't know how I got out of there. I don't know how I got home. I was just completely numb. So I rang Steve, and then I got onto the computer and I typed in Angelman syndrome. And I stayed up all night. And at 7 o'clock the next morning, that's when it hit me. And I knew then that I had to take action. I knew I had to move forward. I knew that Ben wasn't going to be the little boy that I believed I was going to give birth to. I felt I'd already gone through the grieving process. So now I needed to find out what that little boy was all about. I needed to understand him. I needed to find out what was best to support him for him to reach his full potential. So I rang a CERT, which is Angelman Society for Information. And sadly, they have been the ones who have supported us, not the healthcare professionals. And very few have been like our GP, who's found the time to read up and find out more about Angelman's. And I still get accused of being overprotective. But wouldn't you, even if senior doctors assume that Ben is okay just because he's smiling, it's one of the traits. When you know that something isn't right with him. I'm okay, I'm strong, but it does wear you out. But I worry for those who don't have, or who have lost a voice. They're the ones I worry most for.